Welcome, everyone, to a very special Mother's Day episode of Embrace the Echo. Together with me today to host this special episode is the founder and chairman of UDRiVe Group, Coach Boy Delara. Thanks, Coach, for being here with us.
Thank you, Ate Steph, for having me here at Embrace the Echo. It's a great privilege to co-host with you. Shea's story is one of profound strength and unwavering love. Born from the depths of unimaginable grief, the devastating loss of her twins during the second trimester of her pregnancy. A heart-wrenching experience that would forever change her path.
Amidst the darkness, she found a light through the support of her own mother and the resilience within herself. She discovered a newfound strength to navigate the turbulent waters of grief and emerged not shattered, but transformed.
Today, Shea graciously joined us to share her journey, offering insight into the complexities of loss and the power of resilience.
Join us as we explore the depths of maternal strength, an enduring bond that transcends loss, only on Embrace the Echo.
I want to commend both of you for this project and initiative that truly helps a lot of people. Embrace the Echo Grief Talks is one of the initiatives of the Purple Heart Support Group, one of our networks of the Step Forward Trauma Support Group. People don't know that a lot of people are grieving in so much ways, in ways that they don't know they're grieving. And Embrace the Echo, touching different topics. You have different guests from that has a lot of experiences. Embrace the Echo gives that sense of safety and sense of community for all those who are experiencing grief and loss, no matter in what form and size. This is your time to share your story coming from you. We're here with you. First, I want to know, how are you today?
I am nervous and honest, but we can make it through. Well, thank you so much, Coach Boy and Ate Steph. It is a privilege to be here. Like you said, Coach Boy, not as a host this time, but as a guest, to really share my own experiences of grief and healing, especially for today's episode, a Mother's Day special. I'm going to feel very vulnerable, but, in God's grace, I'll be in good hands, I'm sure.
Yes, that's very okay, Shea. And yes, thank you for being here to share that story. Shea's journey is one of resilience, love, and transformative power of human spirit. Stay tuned as we delve deeper into her story on Embrace the Echo.
Please, to all the viewers, you are responsible for keeping yourself safe during the time that you watch this video. There might be instances that are triggering for you. Please feel free to pause the video and regulate yourselves or continue watching the video. So let's jump in. Can you describe, Shane, your own experiences of growing up with your mother, the bond that you share, and how this impacted your own view of motherhood?
Thank you for that first question, Coach Boy. Growing up, most of my childhood back home in the Philippines, I remember being like a shadow of my mom. I'm always curious about the things she does around the house, whether that's cooking, cleaning, working. I always like to learn what she's doing. And as far as I remember, she would be willing to let me learn and get my hands on in doing those things. So I remember I'd go with her in the palengke. We would buy foods and things to sell in our mini tindahan. We had a sari-sari store. So we would prepare our, mga paninda. So, we make our own yema, pastillas, which I enjoy doing kasi there's always laging may tasting, right? So, ubos na yung paninda para sa amin pa lang, magkakapatid. But I remember always wanting to learn whatever chores around the house and to treat our kasambahay as equals. That lasted with us for the many years that helped us around the house. Mama has shown and taught us to treat people with kindness and respect. No matter what status or class they are. That's one thing that I admire with my mom. She's very approachable, very easy to get along with, kind, humble, resourceful, creative, and loving. I remember how she would be challenged by me and my older sister, Ate Sheena, when me and my ate would get into fights. We would be the fast ones to run in order to escape the slippers. I've also seen how she took care of my younger sister, Queenie. I thought that was a hard job, but she made it look so effortless, taking care of my ate, myself, and Queenie at that time. I'd say she's a natural mom. In short, she's always been present for us, her children. And when she was pregnant and in labor with Chris, my youngest brother, I was 16 then. I was the one that assisted her to go through flights of stairs towards labor and delivery. That was another level of bonding that we had. So based on those experiences, I would say that my mom and I's close and supportive relationship made my perception about motherhood as something that is very fulfilling and a very nurturing one. She showed us, my siblings and I, the love and made us feel loved in the best way she knows how. Her presence alone was enough to show it. And her being my maternal role model, I did look forward to my own motherhood and envisioned something that is close to how she showed me, which is, very unconditional. So that's my answer.
Thank you for sharing that. And I agree, no, your mom's very approachable. Hi, Tita. The way that she honed you to be the woman that you are and your view of motherhood, I can see that through you. Like the way how you care for people and the way how you approach people. It's warm, caring, understanding. So thank you for sharing that backstory with your mom. Ate Steph has the next question.
Yes, I do have a next question, Shay, and probably a tough question to ask, but I'm just going to have to ask you this. And I was just wondering if you could share with us a bit about your experience leading up to the emergency extraction of your twins and the subsequent loss. How did you navigate through those initial moments of shock and grief?
Thank you, Ate Steph. I remember the very first time we announced our pregnancy kay Mama. It was actually during the Christmas of 2021. I can't forget what her reaction was. We gave her a picture frame, with my first ultrasound of the twins. So as she opened the gift and saw the picture frame with the ultrasound, her face showed signs of disbelief and awe at the same time. It's almost like I can read her mind thinking, magkakaapo na ako. I knew she wanted to have her own grandkids, and I'd say I'm proud to be able to manifest that for her, even for a brief period of time. And to be blessed with two, it was a bonus. My mama would come over the house to make sure she helped me and JB with the chores around the house. She would help tidy up our place so it doesn't put so much pressure on me to do any chores. She turned 60. I was so happy to be able to gift her and her being so proud telling her friends, magkakaapo na ako. On her 60th. At exactly 18 weeks of my gestation, my water broke, like I said, in the middle of the night. We went to the ER and found out that one of the baby's heart rate was gone. So that was Gio. Meanwhile, Josh is still alive and his heart's still beating. I then got admitted that same day, and I decided to have my mom to stay with me over the night. Little did I know that I will be expecting to be going through labor and delivery roughly around 12 to 16 hours after my water broke. So Gio was stillborn. Mama was the first one to lay eyes on Gio before I did. It would have been so hard for her to see her first grandchild in that state. Both her and I never thought that it would have been the outcome of this pregnancy and her first encounter of being a Lola. So due to the complication of retained placenta from Gio, I was given the option or the choice to either induce me to release the placenta, which could also mean that I'd lose Josh too. And the other option was to wait with risk of infection. So for me, I could not agree to be induced, knowing that Josh is still around. I was hopeful at least to reach 22 weeks to reach a closer time for viability of the fetus. I would hold on to Josh for as long as I could, considering, I'm in the medical field. I get it. I know the risk of sepsis. But during those 3 weeks, I was holding on to the last weeks and moments of being with Josh. I was in denial to anticipate that grief of losing Josh too. I don't know what it would be like to shatter that dream of my envisioned motherhood. But I was faced with the, hard truth and the decision when the inevitable risk of infection did happen. As hard as it was, I had no choice but to surrender. I was faced with the reality that I had to save myself and risk losing Josh as well. And then the rest of my vision of motherhood just simply shattered.
The decision to terminate, the pregnancy to save your life, must have been incredibly difficult for you. Could you share with us how you came to terms with that decision and the emotions you experienced during that time?
So something did come into my senses, though, I was about to lose Josh and my hopes and dreams of my envisioned motherhood. I realized that it was beyond me. There was somehow a higher power that is really telling me I got to let go. It's not about me trying to control the outcome of things. And at that time, I felt so little and so vulnerable. I all of a sudden saw the fear and the worry of those people I love. Both my mom and JD was there with me, seeing me having to go through another labor in pain while my body was also going through some infection. And I think the most scary part that they saw was when my whole body was shaking uncontrollably. Um, I saw my whole body shake, and I could not stop it as much as I wanted to. Even that, I was afraid, thinking, am I gonna die from this? So it was a very very scary experience for me, I would say, and realizing that the fear, the worry that they could lose me. I realized, like, okay, how can I be so selfish to even just think for myself, and I just could not do that, of having to make a decision to just let my life go just like that.
Can you walk us through how your mother's support sustained you during those difficult days in the hospital?
Sure. As you know, at this stuff, when I was in the hospital, it was still in the midst of COVID. So the visitors are still very limited. I was grateful that they actually allowed us to have two consistent person, and that was between JD and my mom, that can stay with me while I was in the hospital. But anyway, si Mama, she has kept me company a few days a week. They would alternate between JD and herself. She's missed work, just to be there for me. She brought me food. She's my runner. Siya yung taga-kuha ko ng tubig because I always like to drink water. When I got admitted, I was, walking was very limited for me. So one of the most important thing I remember that she held on to strongly was her faith. She definitely has a strong faith, I would say, that she would keep reminding me to pray, even when it was also hard for her, witnessing me to go through such difficulty in my grief and pain. I know she was very worried that I might lose my mind, to be honest. Losing Gio and the high risk of chance of losing Josh as well. I think she did verbalize to me na she was really worried na I would go crazy. And I think I did go crazy in the aftermath of the loss. For sure, it hit my mental health really, really bad. Both were very difficult circumstance when she witnessed Gio and Josh. And again, we both never thought that it would be that hard. Talagang we were just really holding on to our faith and surrendered to what was happening beyond our control. I'd say that her presence alone provided me a sense of comfort, strength, and reassurance that I desperately needed. Although during the time na nasa hospital ako, it was really hard to put words or even express my grief with her at that time. I was just focused on myself. Like I said, I went inward and I really struggled emotionally, mentally, and physically. There was at one point, actually, I would say I was not in my best self, that I got irritated and upset towards her during, that time when she stayed in the hospital. Hindi kasi ako makatulog ng maayos nun. And she was talking on the phone, and I hear her, and I got upset. And this was in the middle of the night, and I'm sure it was also, she's probably had a troubled time sleeping too. Thinking that she was also wanting to look after me, right? I remember kasi when my mom, found out we were pregnant, she asked me, and ang wish niya is to be there kapag manganak ako when I give birth to the twins. Especially since this will be her first apo and grandchildren. And I know she was really, really excited to be the grandmother that she's hoped for. So that was that for that question.
I have a follow-up question with that. Thank you for sharing. I wanted you to walk us through, share maybe a bit of how grief manifested at that moment, and if you then realize that you're undergoing or experiencing grief and loss. So others kasi, di ba, they respond with denial or they respond with bargaining. These are not the stages, but the responses that we get towards loss. So where are you at when you were at the hospital?
I think I would say while I was in the hospital, it really hasn't settled in yet. Like there was, I would say, a numbness, almost like I said, in denial. Within that 3 week period where I was still, I still have Josh, but I lost Gio, I was very conflicted whether I should grieve or whether I should be hopeful, considering I still have Josh to fight for. So definitely, I was still. It didn't really hit me yet, like the nature of the grief and the loss until after when I got home from the hospital. So I would say a lot of in denial. Every day I would bleed. I have this thinking. It's like, oh, this is the placenta. It's just disintegrating. Alam mo yun, may mga statements ako. I was trying to make sense of it in a way na, no, this is my way of trying to parang deny the fact that this is gonna happen. But I knew the risk of the infection and everything. But I think at one point nga, one of the nurses had said, it's gonna happen, right? And I was like, how dare you say that? Like at the back of my head, I was like, although I knew, but at that time I was no, I'm holding on to Josh and I'm doing well. That's all I knew.
Aside from Josh, what else are you holding on to that you can't let go at that moment?
That yung vision of motherhood ko nga na I'm holding on na I'm gonna come out of this hospital with a baby, or at least like for Josh to be kahit lumabas man siya at 22 weeks, I was hoping na he could be revived even outside the utero. Because I had that discussion with the pediatrician about the survival rate of the infant should they come out at 22, 23, 24 weeks. Although the survival rate was very low, I said, you know what, I'd push for it. That's how hopeful I was at that time.
What's the turning point? When did you decide that, okay, I'll let it go?
That's when I signs of infection, because it was literally showing signs of my life at risk. And that's the reality that a sad and hard truth that I had to face. That when my body was ready to fight for my life, I was in the verge of life and death. It was that bad.
Thank you. That wasn't easy to share, and I appreciate you sharing with us that side of the story. Grief is a complex and individual process, Shea. Now, can you walk us through your journey of grief in the weeks and months following the loss of your twins? And how did you find ways to honor their memory during that time?
So, like I said, Coach Poy, the first weeks and months of my grief was very challenging and very unfamiliar. This is when it all settled in. I was hit with the reality of the loss, many losses indeed. The primary loss was the twins. And then came along the secondary losses, such as loss of self, loss of identity, loss of hopes and dreams, and loss of purpose. So many shattered dreams, to the point that I felt very unsafe, not just within my body, but also around me. I felt so isolated, I would say. I definitely struggled a lot, like I said, with my mental health. I had so many questions, and I really wanted to make sense of it right away. But the more I pushed and resist for answers to come, life just taught me to face the reality of what is and what was happening then. I needed to learn and go back to the basic self-care, tending to what my body needed at that time, and that was to make space for my grief. My focus was to feel, process, and recover. It was what I needed for healing to happen. That's what I realized. And that I can tell you did not happen overnight. It was a long, hard, and ongoing process. Even up till this point, I would say sharing the story once again, it's not easy. Thinking na, oh, I got this. I was preparing for this episode, but when I was reviewing the question, it felt like I'm back to that time where it hurts again, where it's still very fresh. So clearly, these are some of the things that I know I still need to process. And I just take it as I go along, moving forward with my life. But how did I honor Gio and Josh during this time? I would say that I decided to not suppress my lactation, as I spoke about this in our previous episode. And I saw that my ability to lactate as a blessing, something that I was called to do, to share and to give back. So I registered as a milk donor and donated my breast milk to give to the milk bank. I pumped and I did this for the first 3 months. Talagang kinarir ko siya. Alam mo yung every 3 to 4 hours, the more demand, the more supply you get. So that's what I did. And for me, it felt very healing. I was actually, would say, was proud. I was proud to be able to share that blessing.
Thank you for sharing that, Shea.
Yeah, thanks for sharing, Shay. I was also wondering, how did your mother's support shape your perspective on the bonds of family and the power of unconditional love?
So, see Mama, she's very persistent with her ongoing support. Hindi lang sa akin, with any one of us, sa aming magkakapatid. Her persistent support has been very instrumental in shaping my perspective on the bonds of family, the power of maternal unconditional love, and the importance of, I would say, self-worth. Her presence alone during those challenging times for me, not just physically, but also to connect and check in from a distance. Kapag wala siya sa ospital, she would call and check in on me. And her constant reassurance have taught me the depth of love that exists within the family, near or far. Through her actions, she has shown me that family can be a source of strength and comfort, even in the most unimaginable pain experience, such as this kind of loss. Her unconditional love and faith has been a guide and an inspiration in my life. As she continues to teach me and my siblings the importance of kindness, empathy, and forgiveness, I've witnessed her sacrifices she made for us as a mother, her children, despite of how challenging life was for her. She has shown us accountability, owning up to one's mistake, being humble, open in communication, and respect to oneself, so we can be the better version of ourselves when we show up and love others. And because of that, I would say that I've come to understand the true meaning of selflessness while also prioritizing own self-worth. I've known what are the na napagdaanan niya sa buhay because of her open communication to us. She was able to come out of that challenges with such strength and so much grace. That's why I can just say how much self-worth is also something I like, because knowing that and that she's also able to make those changes to move forward and to still show us as our to us as her children, as an adult now, that na nagkakamali rin ng mga magulang and kaya nilang baguhin if they really wanted to. So in essence, I would say that Mama's support has shaped my belief in the power of familial love, reinforcing the importance of cherishing and nurturing these bonds with such care, kindness, and also gratitude.
So, healing from such profound loss takes time and patience. What are some of your strategies or coping mechanisms that help you as you navigate through your grief? So, you mentioned earlier that one is you donated your breast milk to other newborn, right? So, what else did you do?
I have 4 categories that that I wanted to share. So, particularly for self-care, I did a lot of journaling, walking. On those times that I'm alone, I would do nature trail walks with my dog. I learned mindful meditation. I've read books. I never read books. And then I found a source of hope in reading books. And that was something that I find very interesting, because at one point prior to our losses, I said, I'm never ever going to read books. I don't know why I even said that, because maybe because I guess in nursing school, I read so much books. and got sick of reading all of those, and I thought I would never read books again until now. What I needed to feel at that time, really allowing myself and giving myself permission to feel whatever I needed to feel at that time, and a lot of crying. For the other category would be creative outlets. I'd say I'm a very artsy person. I like music. At one point, I lost the interest to sing, so I just listened to music, and then eventually I started playing the piano. I do paintings as well. I write poems, and that's I would say for creative outlets. Did I dance? Maybe in my sleep. But the last point I have is setting boundaries. This I learned. It was very difficult, I would say, to say no to some social events. It was hard because many people knew me as someone who would always be there, especially in family gatherings. But when I would say no to some social events, particularly I would say on JB's side family, JB has nieces and nephews, and for me that was a huge trigger to see my nieces and nephews. I remember kasi the thought of seeing my nieces and nephews was very triggering for me, and up until now, I would say, though it took some time, for me to overcome that, it was hard. Kasi I was picturing Gio and Josh would be playing with them. It's still hard at this point, but when I saw them, it was just like, they're so innocent. They just gave me that sense of peace I needed. When I saw them, I was like, can Tita Shea get a hug? And they would just give me the tightest hug. And I really, really wanted to say that I appreciate that.
Soften.
I remember that prior to going to family events, sabihin na natin Christmas time. The first time we went for Christmas gathering on JP's side, I tell JP, can you please check in with me? I would have this, check in with me. If I happen to walk out or something, if I disappear, that means I'm triggered. And I needed that time for myself. Anxiety was so overwhelming, anticipating a social event. I've never felt so unsafe for some reason. I try to regulate myself during that interaction, but even at that time, it was a lot for me. I would be very exhausted even just being with them for a few hours. So yung capacity ko to be in social gathering was very limited. I made known to JB that it was an adjustment for JB, for sure, for me to say no. And I think na nakita niya na yun and naiintindihan na niya yun ngayon. But at that time, I think it was an adjustment that both him and I needed to learn or navigate, I would say. But yeah, setting boundaries with social gathering was huge. Because again, I shut the world around me. So yeah, thanks for letting me.
Thanks, Shay. Again, hugs. And yeah, I resonate with everything you said. I know how that could feel like in the midst of losing a child, because as you know, I've also had my loss. But anyways, I was just also wondering, because sometimes people find solace in rituals or practices that honor the memory of their loved ones. Did you engage in any rituals or activities that helped you feel connected to your twins during your healing process?
Yeah, I would say the very first thing we did, maybe a ritual or something that we did in order to commemorate or remember them, was to we chose to cremate their little bodies and decided to keep their ashes in an urn with us. Their urn also served as a candle holder, so we would always have a candle lit every day. It helps remind us that they are with us, and that the candlelight serves as a way to feel connected to them spiritually. I mentioned earlier that I registered as a milk donor, and donated my breast milk to help feed premature infants and to help mothers who aren't able to produce breast milk or can't breastfeed their infants due to certain circumstance. JB and I also have decided to get a traditional hand poke tattoos. to commemorate and remember Gio and Josh. I think we did that roughly around 3 or 4 months, I believe, after our losses. I really enjoyed that time because that was also when we went to BC. We were able to spend time in nature, go on a hike. So that was really nice. I have a tita there that she's helped and accommodated us as well. And then Christmas of 2022, I dreaded it. But JB had a good idea to register us for a Santa Shuffle walk. It was a pet-friendly 5K walk run that was held in December, and we did it as a way to remember Gio and Josh. I remember it was -10 degrees Celsius, and we managed to participate in that event. So yeah, that was really fun. I don't know how we managed to run in -10 degree, but we did. We just have to keep going, I guess, so that we can keep our body heat going. So yeah, that's some of the things.
I will not be able to run at -10 degrees, believe me. Yeah, I'm gonna have asthma at the middle of it. How do you see motherhood as being redefined in today's society, especially in the light of your own experiences?
So for this question, I think it's a complex question, but I think it's one of the most significant aspects of this redefinition in the acknowledgement of the diverse paths to motherhood. This is one thing that I had to challenge from my own vision of what motherhood looked like for me, realizing that motherhood could look very different for every individual, whether that's through traditional childbirth, through adoption, surrogacy, or other means. Things are changing nowadays. There's a growing recognition that motherhood is not just confined to biology alone, right? The conventional notion of motherhood confined to biological childbirth is pretty much evolving towards a more inclusive perspective that recognizes the diverse paths individuals take to nurture and care for their children. So we know that very dynamic na mga family setups ngayon, right? So in addition to that, the society's expectation placed on mothers today, they're also evolving. Women now are increasingly challenging traditional gender roles and societal pressures, asserting their right to define motherhood on their own terms. And I resonate with this very deeply because as I navigate my new view and many options towards fulfilling motherhood for me, this means pursuing career aspirations, prioritizing self-care, or seeking support networks that allow for greater balance and fulfillment. So yeah, things are evolving, and it's meant to. And like I said, I'm in the middle of that, kind of adapting to that new norm and redefining my new vision of motherhood, because grief will always stay there with me. And like I said, no other baby will replace Gio and Josh. So it's still a current terrain that I'm navigating and trying to understand what works for me as things and life unfolds before my eye. So constantly changing. So yes, that's my answer to that.
Thank you for that, Shea.
How has your own journey reshaped your perception of motherhood and expectations you place to yourself as a mother?
So I would say that my journey has taught me that motherhood is not defined by the number of children you have or the manner in which they come into your life. I think it's about the love, the care, and really the sacrifice that we make for our children, regardless of the circumstance. In my case, parenting and remembering my first children will always leave a sense of hope while continuing to see joy and hope in the future. It can definitely bring up mixed emotions, I would say. And now I'd say that I've learned to prioritize my emotional well-being and embracing the support of others, recognizing that being a mother means being strong, but also allowing yourself to be very vulnerable.
Shea, the journey of recovery from such trauma can be arduous. Can you share with us a moment of or a realization that marked a turning point in your healing journey?
So for this question, I remember that there was a time within the first year after our losses. I would say that's roughly around 6 months where I felt a sense that, I'm done being the victim now. I had that sense of, I felt like I was the victim, when the loss first happened, why me? Parang ganon. But halfway through, I would say 6 months, I'm done. This is too tiring. It's time to move forward, I said. I gained a bit of courage despite the fear of the unknown, of what's ahead. Um, it's when I was able to have the words to speak. I gained some perspective from other bereaved mothers as well, gained some wisdom and knowledge from spiritual counselors, therapists, books. It made me think. So what now? What do I do now? And what did I learn? And how can I apply these teachings to help me move forward with my life? How can I work my grief muscle? I think there was a workshop I've attended. They said something about grief is like a muscle. You got to work that out, right? So ultimately, grief will always be a part of me now. And no matter what, grief never ends, right? If you think of it as love, then my love for Gio and Josh will be extended both in heaven and in earth, I would say. And I can still extend that love to those people around me as I live. And so I thought, how can I make their short life leave an impact in this world when all that there is me? I'm still alive. I survived, that near death experience. So I asked myself, there must be a reason, a purpose, or better yet, a mission why I'm still around. So I start to seek my purpose once again. It is what motivated me to keep growing, to search for that mission. At the end of the day, I would say I realized that we are all just trying to figure things out as new experience emerge. And every single day that I wake up is I see it as an opportunity to become better. All emerge from love, I would say. All emerge from the love and the grief. And I made a vow to myself to live, to grow in spirit, and to serve. And all of that, it was done by God's grace, I would say.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you, Shay. That was very, very powerful for me to hear. And yes, thank you for sharing. For those who may be experiencing, Shay, similar grief and trauma, what words of advice or wisdom would you offer based on your experience?
Based on my own experience, I would say that there will always be light, I would say, inside of us for as long as we are alive. Hold on to that. Hold on to that light as a source of hope. I understand that it's not easy to see that hope at the very beginning when it's the darkest, and when you feel you're most vulnerable. But please know that you are not alone on this. Nobody wants to feel that pain when we experience grief and loss, and I get it. However, the hard truth is pain and suffering is an unavoidable part of life. As human as we are, it's part of it. I learned to stay present, be patient and kind to yourself. Kindness was something that I learned I didn't know how to give myself until this happened. So self-compassion is huge. We can be kind for other people, and yet sometimes we're so hard on ourselves. So let's extend that kindness to ourselves when we feel the most vulnerable. And wherever you are in your grief journey, know that I am here for you. And our grief is meant to be witnessed, for you to be heard, to be seen, and also validated. You're not alone.
So, as you reflect on your journey of grief and recovery, what lessons have you learned about resilience, strength, the capacity of of the human spirit to endure even the most profound loss?
Lessons, what I learned. For resilience, I've discovered that resilience is not about avoiding the pain or finding a way to bypass the grieving process. We cannot just keep tucking it under the rug and not talk about it. Instead, it's about finding the courage to confront our pain head on, even when it seems very overwhelming. Resilience means acknowledging our emotions and fully finding the inner strength to carry on despite the weight of sorrow. And also what I've discovered about strength is that, it's not defined solely by our integrating process in isolation. Although I would say I did isolate myself in the first few months, but I realized that nothing's gonna be done if I don't seek for help. And I think I realized that seeking that help from those people that can have that space, that can offer that safe space for you, is the way to go. True strength, I would say, lies in the vulnerability and actively seeking support from those people that around us. And it's about humbling ourselves, embracing our pain and really allowing others to uplift us through their love and compassion. Because there are people out there who are willing to help, and I know sometimes people just don't know what to say, or don't know how to sit with people's pain. But hopefully, with Purple Hearts, we can be there for you. And ultimately, my experience has shown me that the human spirit possesses an incredible capacity for growth and endurance. And even in the face of profound loss, despite the darkness that may envelop us, there's always a glimmer of hope that's within. And that's the light that I was talking about earlier. That's the source of life within us, a resilience that's empowering us to persevere, to heal, and emerge from grief, being transformed and stronger than we ever imagined possible.
Lastly, Shay, what message would you want to leave your mom this Mother's Day? Something that you haven't told her yet or have told her before.
Ma, this one is for you. My message for Mother's Day. Unang-una sa lahat, nagpapasalamat ako sa Diyos na ikaw ang nanay ko na nagdala ng buhay ko dito sa mundo. Naalala ko yung kwento mo na nung pinanganak mo ko, sabi mo hindi ako umiyak kaagad dahil lumabas ako na nakabalot pa yung placenta sa akin. Hindi ko alam kung nag-alala ka nung hindi mo ko narinig umiyak kaagad. Pero ang lagi mong naalala ng sinabi ni Inang ay maswerte daw yon na lumabas ang bata na nakabalot pa sa placenta. I think para sa akin, yun yung naging simbolo ng espesyal na relasyon natin bilang ina at anak. At nung panahon na nasa ospital ako, ikaw yung nakasama ko nung pinanganak ko si Gio and Josh. Hindi man maganda yung kinalabasan ng nangyari ng mga panahon na yun, pero para sa akin, it means a lot na nandun ka sa mga oras na talagang kinailangan ko ng nanay. Sabi ko sa sarili ko, si mama lang ang taong makakaintindi ng pangangailangan ko nung mga panahon na nasa ospital ako, lalo na nung time na naipanganak ko si Gio and Josh. Dahil alam ko rin na wish mo yun na nandun ka para makita yung mga unang apo mo. Alam kong hindi madali at masakit din para sa'yo na nakita mo ako sa mga sacrifice at sakit na naranasan ko. Pero alam kong kinaya mo, Ma, para mabigyan ako ng lakas na mapagdaanan at malagpasan lahat yon. Bilang ina, nakita ko yung lakas mo at salamat sa pinakita mong katatagan. Dahil doon, naging inspirasyon kita para bumangon at maging matatag sa kahit na anong bagyong dalhin at madadaanan ko sa buhay. Mahal na mahal kita, Ma, at walang hintong pasasalamat sa pagmamahal na lagi mong pinapadama sa akin at sa aming mga magkakapatid. Happy Mother's Day, Ma. I love you.